Welcome to Madoka Magicast, a podcast devoted to the
that
anime,
Thank you.
Puella Magi Madoka Magica.
Hey, now
I'm
you're
your
stealing
host,
my
Amanda.
thunder. Hello and welcome to Madoka Magicast, a podcast devoted to the dark magical girl anime, Puella Magi Madoka Magica. I'm your host Amanda, and today we have our first guests on the show. So normally I would be joined by my co-hosts Yasha and Vanna, but today I think we're going to call this segment Witches and Familiars or something like that, where we have some guests on to talk about Madoka. So today, instead of Yasha and Vanna, I am joined by my producer Panda. Hi Panda.
Hello.
And I think her roommate?
And producer of my other podcast, the Fresh Podcast Market.
Okay, so fellow comrade in arms and podcasts, Jimmy. Hi, Jimmy.
Hello. Hey, how's it going?
So I'm joining them as they tell us about their history with Madoka and maybe what they love and don't love about the show. So thanks for joining me today, you guys.
Pleasure to be here.
This is a bit of a stopgap episode because Yasha and Vanna are still recovering from their whirlwind trip to Japan, which Panda also went to.
It was lovely. It was a whirlwind, but it was lovely.
I'm sure for the most part that you will be discussing that on the Utena podcast, but is there anything you...
And all of her other podcasts, too.
Yes, of course. But was there anything about it that you wanted to share with us that was Madoka related?
I did see a large advertisement for the mobile game on, like, a building in... God, it had to have been either Harajuku or Ikebukuro.
Okay.
But that was mostly the only Madoka thing that I think I saw, other than, like, occasional merchandise. But I didn't see as much merchandise as I thought I would.
Yeah, when I was there in November of 2017, I think the cell phone game might have just launched, so there was Magia Record stuff all over the place, and it was ridiculous. And I was like, what is this? Because I'm such a huge fan of Madoka, I knew it couldn't have been another anime, because I would have heard about it. So that's when I came home and I was like, oh, a cell phone game that we'll probably never get, lo and behold.
I've been getting ads for it.
You should, we should probably do a whole episode about Magia Record, but it's pretty good, I think. It's not
I've
so
seen
bad.
Lil Cube.
Yeah.
Big fan of that.
Lil Cube. And there's a lot of, obviously it adds a lot more magical girls to the mythos, and a lot of them are really cool. I'm looking forward to the anime.
I like the design of the main girl that I see, with the hood.
Oh.
She looks cool.
I could do without her weird, like, sheer bodysuit.
I haven't seen a lot of the outfit, like, in its entirety. I just see, like, usually, like, sort of chest up and...
Well, I'm sure we were going to get to that on this podcast eventually. But for now, we are talking about you guys. So, why don't we... I mean, I sort of introduced you, but is there any kind of self-introduction you guys would like to give before we get started? If the answer is no, that's fine. You can just say that and we'll cut it out.
Yeah, no, I think that covers it.
Okay.
Unless Jimmy?
I just finished watching this show all the way through for the first time about maybe like 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
Yeah, it was fairly recent.
I heard a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. But I'll kind of get into that more.
Okay, so why don't you tell us about your history with magical girls first? Because Madoka Magica, as we know, plays quite a bit on audience expectations and genre conventions.
Jimmy, you can go first.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. I feel like I have less to say.
That's okay.
I have not as much experience with magical girl anime, but I'm familiar with the genre and the tropes that are associated with it. So I was familiar with, like, there being a system and there being some sort of, like, magical power-up and all that kind of stuff. So I had somewhat of an expectation going in with that, but definitely not 100%.
Okay, so maybe you were familiar with the supposedly, like, saccharine kind of content of shows like this, but maybe not the details beyond that?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I had seen some odd amount of Sailor Moon and, like, whatever American equivalents of magical girl anime that there were. I can't name any off the top of my head right now. So, like, I was familiar with, like, what I would say general lightheartedness of the genre.
Right.
And I had only heard small amounts of things outside of the general magical girl stuff with Madoka going in, so I was not necessarily ready for the whole experience.
What kind of anime do you like if you watch anime?
I do. It's something that I got into later in my life,
Okay.
so it's something that I'm just kind of picking and choosing as I go along. I really like Ping Pong. Ping Pong was really good.
Okay.
I enjoyed the first season of Psychopaths. Just kind of pick and choose stuff that builds worlds and has, rules that they play by and all that kind of stuff.
Well,
things that are more escapist, maybe.
Right. Well,
I would say.
the guy who did Psychopaths did Madoka, right?
Yeah, I think that we talked about that after we finished watching Madoka.
I've been meaning to watch Psychopaths. I've heard it's really good.
Yeah, I very much enjoy the premise and the execution of the premise too. Like, that's two things that don't necessarily go hand in hand when you watch cool anime.
Yeah.
So it was cool to see the setup and the payoff.
And Madoka's a similar way. Like,
yeah, completely agree.
Yeah. What about you, Panda? I'm familiar with you, but maybe not all listeners are familiar with your magical girl history.
Well, I'm known for my Sailor Moon fanaticism.
Much like me.
Much like Amanda.
Yeah.
I am a huge Sailor Moon fan. I actually got into Sailor Moon pretty late in life. I watched it as a kid, but then I sort of fell out of it as I got into other things, and then rediscovered it when I was in community college, and it just sort of captured me in a very personal way. And I've seen other magical girl shows here and there. I was kind of into Tokyo Mew Mew when I was a young teenager. I've seen a little bit of Precure, but I didn't really get into it very much. I've seen Saint Tail that I really enjoyed. I've dabbled in various magical girl stuff, and then I watched Madoka, and I didn't know anything about it going in. I didn't know who did it. I didn't know who Gen Urobuchi was. It was something that some of my friends kept referencing, and I was like, I want to know what this is. So I watched it, and then I got to episode 3, and I realized that I was in for something that I was maybe not prepared for.
Jimmy, did you know anything about the show going into it?
So, I actually started watching Madoka before this time.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't know anything about it going in other than it was something that a lot of people were getting really excited about. So I downloaded it and I started watching it, and I did, in fact, get to episode 3, and I don't recall watching episode 4. So I feel like I was also not prepared for it entirely. And I was rather invested in Mommy's character, so I was a little miffed, to say the least. Yeah, they got me. Hook, line, and sinker.
Me too. I can relate to that because, not to go off topic, because we do that way too often on this show, but I can relate to that because that's basically my history with Death Note. Like, when it got to the end of the first arc, and spoilers for an anime that's 15 years old, and L dies, I was like, okay, I'm done with this now.
I had to see it through. I was reading the manga.
I was reading the manga too. I was reading it as it was coming out.
I had to see it through because I just was like, okay, I just want to see how, what happens at the end. I'm not necessarily invested in L Juniors. So. Oh
God, it was so bad. I only made it because I remember that I was reading that when I was in high school, and I was reading it as the scanlations were coming out every month. So after that came out, there was all this speculation. I remember this so distinctly about whether Elle had actually died, and I was super on team Elle didn't die. It's all a trick, and I was very wrong.
Oh honey.
You hate to see it.
Anyway, so that's interesting. I'm really glad that you went back to it and that Panda got you to give it another chance.
It was mostly, yeah, at my behest that we ended up watching this again, because what would happen, Amanda, is that I would be editing this show, and then I would be like, damn, I really want to watch Madoka again. And this happened enough times that I just said, okay, look, we're gonna watch Madoka, because like my roommates and I, like there's 3 of us, and we will like sit and eat dinner together, and so like usually we'll have something like that we put on in the meantime, and so I decided that Madoka was gonna be the show that we put on during dinner, and that's how we were gonna watch it. And so for like
family television,
family television, you know. And so for a week, we just, every dinner, when we would sit down, we would watch like, 2 episodes of Madoka, and that's how we ended up getting through the show. Our other roommate Karen had already seen it also, and that was my second full time watching it, but I had seen the first few episodes more than once, and I've seen the summary movies a couple of times, and then I've seen Rebellion 2 or 3 times.
Has Jimmy seen Rebellion yet?
No, not yet. We can't talk about Rebellion.
All right. They need to watch it when we watch it for the show, so that then they can participate in the awesomeness that will be.
Well, if you guys let me on to that episode, then I will definitely drag Jimmy into watching Rebellion.
We might do that, but if it's the 4 of us, I feel like it's going to be like 6 hours.
We have to have a time limit.
We seriously will need to have a time limit. I mean, I don't think we could stretch it out more than like maybe a 3-parter. No. I mean,
I don't think so.
It's so dense.
It really is.
Not to quote George Lucas on that. So dense. There's so many things going on. But it's kind of like that when anyway, we do not have to get into Rebellion. Sorry. Anyway, so
it serves no purpose. It just makes me feel bad.
Yeah, it's exactly. Anyway, so you guys got to Mommy's death. What did you guys think about it the second time through? Were you as upset this time, Jimmy?
I mean, I knew it was coming.
Right.
So it wasn't as bad, but I definitely was upset about it still. Because, like, I guess I understand why it had to happen, but it doesn't mean that I'm okay with it.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in Madoka where I feel like that could very easily explain, like, how I feel.
Yeah,
same. It's one of those things where, like, I understand why that happened, but I still don't like it, and it makes me sad.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of the point for half of it.
Yeah, exactly.
If not all of it, though.
Yeah. What about...
I started getting choked up when she started to do her speech.
About how happy she was?
Yeah, about how happy she was!
And you just know it's coming.
Oh, it's just...
I knew it was coming, too, and like, I was looking at the screen, and I looked over at her, and I looked at the screen.
Just like tears.
Yeah, we both kind of just looked at each other and knew.
Like, don't look at me.
Aw, well, I mean, I think that's everyone's, like, holy shit kind of episode.
It really sets the tone.
It really does. After that, going forward, so, Jimmy, you hadn't seen past that, so what did you think about Sayaka's whole fall from grace and her conflict with Kyoko and her ultimate death and that whole, like, middle section of the show?
You know, I've been thinking about it, and I'm kind of torn on it because it's not like I wasn't invested in Sayaka prior, but she was less of like prior to Mommy's death. Like I wasn't as invested in her, but like once the story started to flesh out, I started to like really feel for her.
Yeah.
Especially like given her position, like having to both like be a magical girl and also protect Madoka from becoming one to a degree. Not necessarily not letting her become a magical girl, but her like being a magical girl so that Madoka didn't have to. It's like a lot of self-sacrifice that was kind of baked into the whole story.
Yeah.
And like
I mean, like,
I love that. So
yeah, we're pretty hard on Sayaka on this show, and
you guys are.
Yeah, well, it's because we like to get into like the way the characters are actually bad people. It's like that Utena frame of mind. But in terms of the, like, when you think about her as a member of the cast, she's really is one of the better and more noble characters in the show. Even if that kind of leads to her downfall ultimately. So
I would say that she's really one of the only characters that has like redeeming qualities. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Like that are like surviving. I think Mommy is fine. I think she was just a little naive.
Yeah, Mommy was a ticking time bomb of issues, as we find out.
Yeah, yeah. That's a whole bit.
Yeah, just kind of keeping it all under the surface.
Yeah, I mean, not to get off topic here, but she kind of became like I feel like she was kind of supposed to be the poster child of like the gilded part of being a magical girl. Like, look at all these cool powers that you get, and look how graceful and nice you are.
Right.
And like, don't you want to be a magical girl? Become a magical girl today. And then like you have her foil, Hamura, who is like optimal magical girl. She is only in it to not die,
right,
and make sure that Madoka doesn't become a magical girl. You know, based on like we find that out later. But like at least from the initial introduction of her, it's just like what night and day between Mommy and Homura.
Yeah, Homura is much more. She's, even though you don't know what she's doing at the very beginning, you can tell that she has a completely different purpose to what she's doing than Mommy does. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about you, Panda? How is it rewatching that middle section with Sayaka and Kyoko?
I hadn't really noticed, like, I knew that Sayaka and Kyoko was, like, a shippy thing, but I hadn't really remembered them being so, like, intertwined in the series, and I definitely didn't remember their, like, swirly blue and red moment that they had that was kind of cute.
Yeah.
But...
Yeah.
I had a better appreciation, I think, for, like, the way in which that they played off of each other as characters, and, like, I love Kyoko. I think that she's great, and I think that she is always fun to play off against somebody that's a little more straight-laced, like Sayaka or Mommy.
Yeah, or even Homura is fun with her.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I always kind of think that the fact that Sayaka did hers for a boy is lame, and I think that whole subplot is kind of lame, but it also makes sense for the, like...
Somebody had to do it.
It's very representative of, like, the types of problems that would ensnare a young girl into something like this, and I get that, for sure.
Yeah. And Kyoko kind of got wrapped up into that too, because she does it for her dad. So there's like, you know, when you're a kid, you've got your dad, and then you've got everyone who isn't your dad. And when you hit that 14 age, you start getting interested in those other men, and not necessarily your dad anymore. So I can kind of see, like, they really do, thematically, the two of them, I think are really important for the show. And they just, that whole little mini arc, I think, is really great, even though it ends very sadly.
Yes.
I feel like they're the two middle points between Hamura and Mommy. Like, as far as, like, if you were to put everybody on, like, a scale of, like, pessimistic to optimistic, or, like, cynical to optimistic, Hamura would be on the left and Mommy would be on the right, and then you'd have Sayaka closer to the middle on Mommy's side, and then Kyoko on Hamura's side.
Yeah.
And I guess Madoka would be in the middle, because she's just, like, not necessarily involved at this point, necessarily.
Yeah, as of recording this, we have not watched the last episode with Yasha and Vanna, so I don't know how much we want to get into that.
That's fair.
Do we care?
I forgot.
Do we care? Maybe we can just tell them, like, hey guys, don't listen to this until afterwards.
I don't know. How do we talk about the series without talking about the last episode?
I say
if you guys are listening, stop listening.
Stop listening. Yeah. Here's your spoiler warning, everybody. If you've been watching along with the show with us, or if your names are Yasha and Vanna, turn off this podcast now. Because we're gonna...
I'll put a spoiler warning in the description.
That's
also. Or you can put it as spoiler warning in the description and maybe one in the title too.
Yeah. Okay, so but before we get to that, we have to talk about the big Homura reveal in episode 10.
Boy howdy.
So how hard did you guys cry, and how long did it last?
It was a pretty good bit.
I cried a lot, even though it was not my first time seeing it. My first time I definitely cried, but I think I cried harder this time. I don't know. I was more emotional about it this time, I think, because of the anticipation of knowing the whole time.
Yeah.
Also,
I had kind of figured out that something was at work because like Hamura seemed a little too practiced and everything.
Right.
As far as like her just coming in out of nowhere. So I didn't know the extent, and I especially didn't know it was for Madoka. But like, yeah, that reveal was it was a lot. To put it one way, it's just like self-sacrifice is a theme and throughout the show in varying degrees, and like I think that it really hit the nail on the head with that, just like forever pushing the boulder up the hill.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes Homura so tragic. Like, her entire situation is the fact that it's so hopeless, but she can't confess to herself that it's hopeless because then it's over. So she's just doing this completely pointless, if I'm saying it right, Sisyphean task.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I got it. I am
Sisyphean.
I am notoriously
We'll
I'm notoriously bad at pronouncing things. So, yeah, it's just really, that's what is so horrible about that episode, and it just destroys you because I mean, I think probably, I'm trying to think back on when I watched the show for the first time, leading up to that scene right before that episode where Homura breaks down in front of Madoka after shooting Kyubey, and she's like, "Why are you so stupid? Why can't you just listen to me?" You know that scene where she starts crying? Yeah. And it's like, whoa, this isn't the Homura. Completely out of nowhere. This isn't the Homura that we know. I think right up to that scene, I still didn't really trust her or like feel super invested in what was going on with her. She was just kind of this weird element in the show that I was waiting to get paid off on. And oh boy, did it pay off. Like that first scene of episode 10 where she's just her former self and she's stammering in front of the class is so shocking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like that episode, like that timeline in particular, did such a good job of like introducing that investment.
Yeah,
from one episode, really. Because like I definitely was somewhat in the same boat, like because I knew that there was definitely going to be something going on, because there's not just going to be a character that isn't developed necessarily, hopefully, but. It really was like very well done to like mirror the scenes that we had already seen and like play into the reveal by like showing the fact that like we've already done this before and that we're going to do it again. Right. And I feel like that was really awesome.
What do you guys think about Yasha and Vanna's theory about Homura's wish making Madoka less confident? Do you think that's a thing that happened as the cycles went on?
I don't know.
I hadn't heard this until just now.
Yeah, they have a theory that Homura's wish essentially made Madoka weaker and more timid as the cycles went on in order to make it possible for her to save her. Like, because her wish was to be strong enough to protect Madoka. So gradually she got stronger and gradually Madoka got weaker in order to make that wish come true. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I kind of interpret it more as Madoka got her confidence from being a magical girl. So when we see the timeline where she's not a magical girl, she just seems kind of confused and doesn't know what to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of more how I see it. What do you think, Panda?
I'm more inclined to believe that as well, that her confidence came from being a magical girl, but like I feel like if that was something that ended up being introduced into the story, I wouldn't see that and go like, oh, that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
You know, like I don't necessarily think that I agree with that being a fact of the series, but if it were introduced, I'd be fine with it. If like that, if they revealed that was the case.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting, and like, we're gonna, again, to bring up Rebellion, but we're gonna be talking later, or I want to talk later, about how, in my opinion, the show is open to interpretation, and a lot of the certain elements of the show are open to interpretation, and a lot of the spin-off stuff that came after it kind of ruined some of those elements of it, because it fleshed out that stuff, and then, you know, it's not as ambiguous, and it can kind of alienate people who maybe didn't see it that way.
I haven't gotten into as much of the spin-off material.
Yeah, but that's okay. That is one element, because normally I'm the kind of person who hates it when anime is super obscure and doesn't make any sense, but I feel like Madoka does it in a way where it's kind of fun to kind of think about some of the other possibilities, I think. Because so much of the rest of it is so concrete.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like Hamura having time magic makes things a lot more interesting as far as possibilities go.
Yeah, I mean, you've got so many alternate universe stories that you can come up with in that framework.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so here's your final spoiler warning, everyone. If you don't want to be spoiled on the last episode of Madoka, turn the episode off now. Okay, so what did you guys think of the ending of the show?
Wow, it was very aesthetically pleasing. I think that it was a lot grander than I expected, even with all of the build-up.
Mm-hmm.
I should say that, and Panda can attest to this, as soon as Kyubey came on the screen, I said, I do not trust him. So
I forgot to ask about that.
I do not trust Kyubey. I have never trusted Kyubey, and I will
Jimmy
never trust Kyubey.
did not trust Kyubey for a single episode.
So when he said, Madoka, you're going to become the most powerful magical girl that's ever magical girl, I didn't believe him. So when she did, I was a little stunned, to say the least.
It's so beautiful, and
yeah.
like not just like artistically, but also emotionally, and like Monica's wish, and like saving all the magical girls, and like and the scene with Halvora, and
I know.
Yeah.
I just sob. I just cry. I cry so much.
Okay, here's a question for you guys. Would you call it a happy ending?
Kind of.
It depends on whose perspective you're looking from. Because I feel like it's happy for everybody but Madoka.
Yeah.
For the most part. Like, I feel like she's carrying the weight of everybody else's sorrows and burdens at that point.
What do you think, Panda?
I think that, Hamura is definitely not satisfied with the ending, but also, like, I feel like Madoka made the right choice.
Yeah.
But it's bittersweet, and you know what she did was for the good of everyone.
And probably was the only way to get people out of that situation.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, how many other magical girls were even in a position of knowing how all of this stuff worked before they made their wish to even be able to do that?
Yeah, you raise a good point.
Yeah.
She kept that as her trump card for a very long time.
Yeah.
And it came up to the last episode, and because of that, her power was magnificent because of how much, like, her wish required.
Yeah, and that's another thing that we're going to end up talking about. I just think the ending to the anime is amazing. Personally, yes. I love it so much. And in my opinion, I would agree it's also bittersweet. I think the ending is a little bit ambiguous as far as Homura. This is one of those things I was talking about that, you know, some of the side material kind of ruined the ambiguity of that ending with her. Because when I first watched the show, I came away with it just seeing it as a bittersweet but mostly happy ending. Like, I really felt like it was the perfect ending.
I would agree with that, definitely.
Yeah, and everybody just seemed happier, or as happy as they could have been at the end of the show, which is as much as I could have asked at that point. And even Homura seemed to have maybe found some peace and found some new purpose. So I loved it. You're gonna see why Rebellion is so controversial later, Jimmy.
Wonderful.
Rebellion takes place after the ending of the series, and
I already don't like it.
Yeah.
The only continuation as far as the main series goes.
Yeah, it's the only spin-off that I know of. I don't think Magia Record has anything to do with the end of the series or the end of Rebellion. But it's the only continuation of the main anime that exists, even though there's been like 5 or 6 different spin-off manga and light novels and PSP games and all this other stuff. So, for the most part, they haven't ruined the ending, except in the biggest, most major way, in my opinion. By doing a movie.
Just as a whole, I don't like when they patch stories up like that, especially ones that are so open-ended. and it just doesn't sit right with me because I feel like it's against the intent of the story.
Yeah, I mean, I encourage you to listen to the Rebellion episode when we get to it, because there's a whole lot of history about the production of the movie that we're also going to be getting into. But yeah, it should be interesting.
End of Madoka.
Yeah. End of Eva, end of Madoka.
Jimmy also hasn't seen End of Eva yet.
Oh my goodness!
I have seen Eva, though.
Yeah, you just recently finished Ava a few months ago, and we just haven't gotten around to End of Ava yet, which I guess means we'll have to watch the Netflix dub.
Oh god.
I might have the ADV dub somewhere. I know I've got the series.
Or you could just Google it and
I didn't say it.
I mean, you could just Google
wasn't
it
me.
and then see if one of the links is legal. Just look.
Are we
click
endorsing
you gotta
piracy on this podcast?
No, not at all. But Google it and then you click on the link and then you check the website to see if it's legal. And sometimes they start auto playing, but you just gotta let it go while you're checking the website, okay?
Yeah, it's just part of it.
And then if it's illegal, you just hit the back button. It's fine.
Then you're safe.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, it's called the back button law.
Amanda would know.
As not anybody's attorney who is listening to this, I do not advocate or support piracy in any way.
I do, though. You guys can at me.
However, if you want to see the original dub of End of Evangelion instead of this bullshit that Netflix pulled, maybe attempt Googling it and checking the website to see if it's illegal to upload.
You're protected by the back.
Yeah, it's fine. You should just give that a try. Yeah. Anyway. All right,
Don't worry, I'll cut some of this out.
No, you can leave it all in. You can leave it in. I don't care. All right, so I guess, do you have any overall thoughts of the show? Just anything else you wanted to share about your reaction, especially Panda rewatching it or Jimmy?
Man, I love Homura. I so much resonate with her.
Me too.
In the earlier parts of the story.
Yeah.
Where she's just all this is bullshit. All of you are bullshit. I don't want to deal with any of this. I'm just here because I have to be. I very much resonate with that. But even more so the fact that she's doing it for somebody.
Yeah.
That is just her protecting herself.
Right, exactly.
And I like that. I feel like that's a trope that's usually played on too much, but I feel like it really paid off very well in this because of the setup of the coldness for 10 episodes and then the big reveal.
Yeah, as they say, most of it, what's the saying? It's all in the execution.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if it's all in the execution, but execution is definitely a big part of it. You can take the tropiest trope out there, and as long as you just execute it really well, it's probably still going to be pretty entertaining.
And I mean, I feel like that's Madoka Magica as a whole. It's just what tropes can we play with here?
Yeah.
And it does so many of them so well. At least from my limited perspective. No,
and I honestly, I have a theory that possibly people who only have a passing understanding of magical girls might get more out of it than diehard magical girl fans. What do you think about that, Panda? Would you agree with that?
I think you might be onto something there, and I'd be interested in hearing more of what you would have to say about that. I think that it's unfortunate that Madoka has grown to have such a reputation that it's becoming more something that's accessed by non-anime fans as an introduction to anime. I don't think that it works very well as that. Or and I don't know that anybody's out there necessarily watching Madoka as their very first anime, but I know that it's gotten a reputation outside of anime circles for being something that you have to watch because it's got the big twist and everybody's talking about it, but nobody wants to tell you what it is.
What's a
twist?
You
have to watch for yourself.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure everybody has seen the screen cap that's been passed around. It's anime for beginners, and it has Evangelion and End of Ava and Madoka Magica as the two recommendations.
No. No.
But I do think that it makes for, I think that it's accessible enough for people that maybe just are into other types of anime that you don't have to study up on magical girls in order to get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, as long as, like, because Jimmy, you said you'd seen a little bit of Sailor Moon. I feel like as long as someone has seen a little bit of Sailor Moon, or maybe a little bit of Pretty Cure, or something along those lines, I think they might have enough of the preconceptions in their brain to be able to enjoy the bait and switch elements of the show. But I agree that if you don't know anything about anime and you've never seen any kind of magical girl anything before, probably not going to get the same thing out of it.
Yeah, I think like a lot of the nuances of it's going to be lost on people that don't really get the tropes that they're playing.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think, Panda? Did you have any like fresh perspective after watching it again?
I probably got more of a perspective on it, like, after just listening to you guys talk about it. I think really helped me reconsider a lot of, like, stuff about the series even before I watched it again. So it was really, fun to actually get to go back and listen to it again.
Oh, that's good. That makes me so
watch
happy.
it again after listening to you guys.
Aw, that makes me happy to hear. I like that.
Oh yeah, I love listening to you guys.
Because I just love it so much, and I just want to talk about it. That's why I proposed a crazy podcast project for it.
I love the witch's aesthetic in the lab.
Yes, let's talk about that.
Oh my god. I remember distinctly the first time that I watched Madoka, like the first watch of the first 3 episodes, I was just entranced by the labyrinth and like the way that the animation styles and artistic styles blended together. It's great stuff.
And it really contributes to that like kind of terrifying otherworldly
yes, exactly.
feeling of all the witches.
Yeah, you don't understand the physics of the world that they're in.
Right.
You don't know, like, what is an actual witch and what are things that are just there. Like, and the fact that every witch has, like, a different labyrinth, like, style and artistic style makes it fresh each time. Like, you still don't know.
Which you then find out is related to their wish and their downfall. So there's all this great imagery in the background.
Yes.
Honestly, someone just needs to make like an RPG system based on like the magical girl system in this show.
You have never spoken to me more than just now. That's exactly my shit.
There are magical girl based tabletop systems, but none that are specifically Madoka in my knowledge. That may not be true. Someone may have made some sort of fan RPG system.
It's just a world and a setup and like an institution, I almost want to say, that you can create characters inside and have there's the possibility for stories within that framework is like endless.
Yes,
you know?
I feel like they did such a good job of including like just the bare minimum amount of structure.
Yeah.
For how this system worked, but without it like being a big factor of the show. Like it never felt super heavy-handed whenever they needed to like
info dump.
Info dump, or if they needed to like refill or like use a grief seed or something like that. Like it never felt like it was they were bogged down by the mechanics of the world.
Right.
It felt very fluid.
We might do our magical girl episodes. I think that's a Patreon goal. Hey, everyone.
Yeah, you guys were talking about doing a tabletop.
If you guys want to hear us, listen to us do a tabletop game that's maybe incorporates some Madoka elements, go check out our Patreon. I'm pretty sure it's maybe like the $80 goal or something. It's not the first goal, I know that, but it's somewhere up there. Anyway, but yeah, so like, what would you say your favorite witch is? Because I know my answer, but I want to hear your answer.
Man, you're gonna have to go first.
Well, it's sort of bittersweet that my favorite witch is Charlotte. Because I do think that she has a really cool design, and I do have like a little plushie of like the little Charlotte, like the version that we see in rebellion.
Bebe.
That's not really a spoiler. Yeah, Bebe.
Yeah.
I have a little Bebe plushie, and I just think that the design is really cute, and it just crushes me to see Mommy's scene in episode 3.
Yeah. It can be pretty hard to watch.
But I had a deeper appreciation for Walpurgis Knott's design this time watching it than I did maybe the first time. I think hearing you guys describe her and talk about her sort of helped me like actually see what was going on with her design instead of just being overwhelmed by the visual of it.
I know it's a lot going on the screen.
Yeah.
Every scene is so dense.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
What about you, Jimmy? Are you looking through the wiki right now or something for the right name?
Hey.
You're clicking in the background.
Don't.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yes, because a lot of the names aren't in English.
Right.
Nor Japanese, to be fair. So, or at least the title cards that they showed. I really like Gertrude, but like aesthetically. Big fan of that. I think that was the one with like the clotheslines. Was there one?
Patricia?
Yes.
I think
aesthetically that was very
like that.
interesting too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Patricia. Yeah, the class representative witch.
Yeah, she's cool.
Yeah, I really like that. Honestly, all of them were so like interesting as far as where they went with it. I never expected anything. Like they were all just so abstract that like I was always just in awe of like what little world they built inside that little labyrinth.
Did you predict the magical girls are witches reveal before it came up?
No, I didn't, but it made sense.
So
yeah, I didn't predict it.
How did that play out?
It made sense to me.
Uh-huh.
Once he said it, I was like, oh, okay, well, that kind of seems like the logical conclusion based on this whole like incubator system thing. It was a lot because then I had thought back to all the witches that we had seen,
right?
And I was like, well, who are they?
Oh shit! Yeah, all those quote unquote monsters were actually just fallen girls in the same position.
Right. I had anticipated that there was like some sort of guys because like they had made that pretty apparent with Mommy from the start because like they introduced the conflict of like Mommy's description of being a magical girl and then Hamura's description and like general attitude,
right? But
they didn't necessarily slip that lead very very early. I feel like because I was definitely trying to figure out what the hell's going on and I didn't figure that one out. So it's a pretty good one.
Panda, did you get fooled by that the first time you watched too?
You know, it's been so long since I watched, I don't remember 100%, but, like, I know a lot of the show did, like, catch me, because I wasn't really expecting a lot of it, even though, like, even after, like, the grimdark reveal of, like, being willing to actually kill off a main character, which I loved hearing in the podcast when Yasha was bound and determined that they were not gonna keep Mommy dead.
Oh yeah, she's coming back. She's coming back.
Oh, the dramatic irony of it. But even after that reveal of like how far they were willing to go, I still like kept being surprised by things that happened. So I feel like it probably did catch me unawares, the whole, like, magical girls become witches thing.
I know. It's like one of those things, like, you can never get that experience back again once you have it. It's like with a video game, playing a really good game the first time.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's still, like, it just sticks with you for so long. My favorite witch is H and Ellie. I don't know if I've mentioned this on the podcast yet or not, but H and Ellie is the one where Madoka saves all the people who are trying to kill themselves with bleach and whatever it was.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And they tear her apart to bring her into the labyrinth, and then it's like the big globe on the inside. That one's my favorite, personally.
That's fair.
Yeah. I don't know what it is about that one that I just find kind of cool. You know what? I think my imagination goes wild with some of these witches of like trying to think of like what kind of magical girls they were and that kind of a thing. I don't know.
Well, they give you a lot to play with.
They do, yeah. You could,
especially like how much like features of magical girls get exaggerated once they become witches. Like just like small things about them. So like you never know like what detail is actually small.
Yeah, exactly. Although Octavia von Seckendorf is also pretty cool. I do enjoy her as well. She gets a lot of screen time.
That's Sayaka.
That's Sayaka,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Yeah.
I was honestly surprised that like Sayaka's witch came into play as early as it did.
Yeah, I mean her fall was pretty quick, which I'm sure Kyubey did intentionally. Yeah, I'm pretty convinced that Kyubey intentionally goes after girls that he thinks are not going to do well.
Yeah. I could see that.
Yeah.
I mean, he shopped Madoka around for a while.
He did.
I feel like that was because like he knew that like the bigger that they are, the harder they fall.
Right.
But like definitely like you could tell by his reaction that he didn't anticipate her wish. So
definitely not.
I feel like he was expecting the payoff.
Yeah. Might have been underestimating humans a little bit there.
Yeah.
Especially girls.
Man, I really liked, even though I hated Kyubey, I really liked like his interactions where with like the magical girls, where he's just
such a little shit.
You humans are just so confusing.
He's like this. You like weirdly passive aggressive.
Yeah, it's like I gave you a bed. I don't understand why you're mad at me. Like,
oh, who is that? Like, I feel like there's another character that I feel like I've talked about this before.
Well, there's been the comparison of Kepi and Kyubey plenty of times.
A little bit, although that didn't really play out entirely.
It didn't pan out because Kepi is the ideal make form,
apparently.
But I like Kyubey. I have a little Kyubey backpack. I find him delightful. He's horrible. He's a little shithead, but I find him delightful. He's a very fun villain.
He is, and he's like a fun inside joke at the same time. He's a horrible asshole.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. He's like Joffrey from Game of Thrones. Remember how Joffrey was kind of the same way? If you guys have seen Game of Thrones.
I feel like I'm less involved or less invested in Joffrey because he was like more overtly an asshole.
Well, that's true. But do you remember how like...
Yeah, no, I understand. Like he's just like our little...
Yeah, people kind of enjoyed watching him be an asshole, and he was kind of like a meme status kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel
agree.
Like Kyubey's got a little bit of that. Like, oh, look, it's that asshole little cat.
Ooh, man. Every time he got on the screen, he was going to say some bullshit to these girls. Ooh, I got mad every time. It was very satisfying to watch Hamura shoot him with a gun.
Yes.
Like, I very much appreciate that Hamura's power is time magic, but her weapon is gun. She just is like, gun and then make bomb then blow people up.
This is apparently a trope in Gen Rabuchi's works generally, is that he'll have a fantasy setting or he'll have some kind of fantastical setup, and then there will be one character who just uses guns to get things done.
it was very abrasive to see her pull out a Beretta, just like a pistol. And everybody else has like these magical like chain spears and like
even Mommy has guns, but hers are like
fantastical
old tiny.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she's just got a pistol. She's got a service sidearm.
Yeah.
I love it. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, it's just it's very different.
It's awesome. I love Homura. Homura is probably my favorite magical girl in the show.
She definitely grinded her way to the top.
She did. She got all the way to max level.
She sure did.
She had no idea what she was doing, and then she started making bombs in her garage, and then she was a magical girl.
That's devotion. Panda, who would you say is your favorite?
Mommy is definitely my favorite.
Okay,
for sure.
I could have told you that.
I love her. I love her optimism. I love her style. I love her outfit. I love that she just uses these like big old timey guns. And I love the way that she uses her magic to curl her hair, and I love her transformation sequence and her music. It's all just so... I love her. She's great, and it hurts me to see memes about her on the internet.
And the fact that she's an explosion waiting to happen.
Yeah,
I mean,
too.
I like that because it adds an extra element to her character.
Oh, for sure.
For sure. You know what I mean? It definitely makes her
Yeah.
more interesting for her to be the one to have that kind of extreme reaction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
All right, cool. Well, do you guys have any final thoughts? Especially you, Panda, because I know you're a producer and there's got to be some things you have wished you could contribute to the discussion.
Bones to pick.
I don't...
Or Jimmy, too.
I don't know if normally when I have something to say, I'll either say it to you guys, but oftentimes if I'm feeling like I need to say something, then sometimes you will end up saying the thing that I was going to say.
Oh.
Good. Amanda representing me on this podcast. I have one closing thing to say, and that's
Sure.
Jimmy, did I tell you about the pun? The Gothica pun?
No.
Okay, so in English, like the final form of Madoka, when she has like her big dress and she's like the god saving everybody, all of the magical girls from becoming witches, in English we would call her Gothica, and in Japan they call her Madokami, which kami means god.
Yeah.
I'm familiar. That's clever.
You could also call her Maguka, too.
Well, yeah, I have gotten out of the habit of calling her Maguka.
We're going to have to cover that ridiculous 4chan thread on this podcast at some point.
Please do.
That deeply meme-worthy, incredibly epic 6-part 4chan thread that summarizes the show with silly screenshots. Anyway, any final thoughts from you, Jimmy?
I think you just unlocked some lore for me. I think the first time that I ever seen Madoka Magica was on a 4chan thread back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Like when it was coming out, I feel like I definitely had seen like a picture or something.
Yeah, that was back when I, too, was still going to 4chan because it wasn't horrible yet.
People make mistakes.
Yeah,
okay?
it's okay.
We grow as people.
It wasn't always like it the way it is now.
Yes.
I promise.
Yeah, I was there a long time ago.
I remember being there in 2007 when I was in college.
Yeah,
It was
exactly.
way different
Same.
than it is now.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, cool.
The internet.
Thank you for joining me on this little filler / meet our friends of the show episode. I guess it's a little bit of a preview for the final episode and a little bit of the rebellion discussion we might have for our listeners. Everyone say thank you to Panda for being our producer and editor, because the show would not be possible without her editing all the episodes for us.
Thanks me.
Panda.
Thanks, Panda. And
you're welcome.
Yeah, would you guys like to... Aw. Sorry for the episodes always being like an hour and 45 minutes.
Oh, it's fine. I expect nothing less.
Would you guys like to plug your other podcasts and other stuff before we head out?
Jimmy, do you want to go first, or do you want me?
Yeah, I'm mostly just active on Twitter because I work for a living. So you just follow me at JimothyJam. I mostly talk about stuff that only I care about. So somehow people still like to listen. So if you want to follow me and get me to 500 followers and get some serotonin, then it would be great.
Love that social media serotonin.
It's the best kind.
Nothing better. If you would like to follow me on Twitter, you can do that at Impandanada. If you would like to follow any of my podcasts on Twitter, you can do that at UtanaCast or at Fresh Pod Market. Fresh Podcast Market is a real podcast about fake podcasts that is produced by Jimmy. And UtanaCast is a Revolutionary Girl Utana podcast that is sort of a cousin podcast of this podcast. I don't know how the family tree works yet.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we're like half sisters at this point. I'm not sure.
It'd be Akio and Auntie.
No.
No.
I'm sorry, Jimmy. I think you need to leave.
Yeah, sorry. Jimmy's canceled from the show. Bye.
Jimmy's canceled.
All right, well, cool. And I am Lambda Power on Twitter. You can also follow my other creative projects on Twitter at OddLasdo. That's my art account and my account for fan art and the visual novels I'm working on and all that kind of stuff. And I'm on Tumblr at Sailor Shippost, where I post Sailor Moon shitposts, as the name suggests.
Amanda has top tier Sailor Moon shitposts.
Top tier! Did you see the one I posted today?
No.
Oh, it's some of that good manga Sailor Moon shit. Hold on. Euro.
Oh, yes. Very good. Very good. 10 out of 10.
Manga Sailor Moon
Excellent
doesn't
as
fuck
always.
around.
She really doesn't. Nobody in the manga fucks around.
No.
Like, it's just one and done. Like,
Yeah.
just fucking turn your ass into a rock.
Oh, you're trying to hurt my friends? Bye. I think... how many villains actually get redeemed in the Sailor Moon manga? Like, maybe the Sailor Quartet?
Meanwhile, I was watching some of R yesterday, and we were watching the or not yesterday, but a few days ago, and we were watching the Spectre sisters all get redeemed.
Oh boy. I mean, I do have a very fond memory of all of those episodes, of course. As I will tell you at any opportunity that I can. The Sailor Moon anime and the Sailor Moon manga are very different beasts, so it's really not fair to
Yes,
compare.
they
them.
are.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's true. I'll keep saying it. Anyway.
And you should.
And I should, and I will. So thanks for joining me, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. And please join us next time. I'm gonna try to kick Yasha and Vanna's butts in gear for us to record this episode 12.
Vanna can stop looking at the musical for 5 minutes.
Yes. I want to say that they might live stream it, their first watch. I don't know. If they were here, they would tell us. But if you did want to join us for that, check the Madoka Magica Twitter. If and when we do that, we will absolutely post about it ahead of time on the Twitter so that everyone will have a chance to know when it's happening and be able to join us and experience that with our co-hosts for the first time. Should be really interesting.
I can't wait.
Yeah, I cannot wait either. And then I can't wait for Rebellion. It's going to be a good one. All right, thanks for listening, everybody, and thanks for joining me, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.